I'm going to tell you briefly for about 2 minutes an example of this. And it's a very personal example, which I sort of have been debating about whether or not I was going to mention. And I think I'll mention it just because I think that it is important. In the United States, it's probably not surprising to most of the people here, I have a mother. And my mother, I know, but my mother and I are not particularly close, and unfortunately for her, she's quite mentally ill, and it's a very sad story, and her life is quite tragic, more tragic than any person that I have mentioned so far. But what is most tragic about her is that in the last 2 years, about the time that my harassment from the United States government started, but probably not related, she was arrested and jailed. And the state broke basically every law that you can imagine in arresting her, including breaking into her house without a warrant for arrest or for search. Despite the fact that she was arrested under totally bogus circumstances, and despite the fact that her life has been utterly destroyed, where her house has been taken and her property has been taken from her, and she has literally nothing left, she was forcibly committed to a mental institution. And as a result, they decided that they can hold her for 3 years without a trial. Now, being mentally ill is not in itself a crime, but because she was arrested for something else that is allegedly a crime, this means that they can keep her until she is competent, thus effectively criminalizing insanity, which is too bad. She is legitimately mentally ill and could use help. But the way that they decided to help her was by destroying her life such that when she gets off on the charges that she faces, she will have nothing to return to. So these are the effects of a totalitarian society that goes after Bill Binney, Thomas Drake, Jessalyn Radcliffe, Bradley Manning, Julian Assange, and myself. And she told me, and though she is quite insane, it's difficult to know if it's true, that she was interrogated twice about me and WikiLeaks. Once before she was being treated, and then once after she had been forcibly injected with antipsychotic medicines. Now, that's a pretty upsetting thing, to say the least. But the most upsetting part is I don't know if it's her crazy ramblings, because she is quite crazy, or if it's true. But the important part is that if we just take it as it seems, which is that this is a person who has fallen on hard times, what we can take from this is that this is everybody's problem. I mean, it's actually also technically my problem. But the important part here is to recognize that she is what is happening to everyday regular people in American society. And that's a really upsetting reality, to have that happen. So what can we do about these things, right? I mean, if you're still not convinced that this is what happens to regular people and that you will skate by just fine, I don't know what I could say, really, to convince you. But I suppose I could say to look to the children who have been killed by drones who were also innocent and see what kind of justice that they have. But it seems to me that rather we have to fight against things. But we have to do more than just fight against them, because merely fighting against things becomes corrosive. In my mother's situation, fighting against her unjust imprisonment, the same for Bradley Manning, the same for Assange, the same for all of the people that have been unjustly harassed, or worse, that burns you out and it destroys your life.